Hey guys, I'm Brandon.
I'm Brigitte.
This is part of our archive of content from our other channel, and if you're looking for it, it's now called
Brigitte Beckley. We'll have new content for you guys soon, but let's just get into the video. 15 to 20% of married couples have an affair.
Don't be a part of that. We're going to talk about how to affair-proof your marriage. We're not saying it's 100%. Nobody's 100%. We are human, but you can prevent a lot of things from happening if you're intentional about it. The cool part about this video is I have no idea what she's about to say.
And I have no idea what he's about to say. We knew we wanted to do a video about this because it's so important to us, and we feel like the sanctity and value of marriage and what it represents is extremely important for so many reasons. So I came up with some points about how to prevent infidelity, and he did also, but we have no idea what each other is going to say. Don't look at my notes.
I'm not. I didn't even write no notes. I just got it in here.
Disclaimer, we're about to talk about physical marital intimacy, so if there are little ears around, maybe you need to finish this video later. We both did a thumbs up.
The important thing here is to recognize, I think the language we're going to use is guard your marriage, right? Because you can guard from attack. It doesn't mean that things will never happen, but man, you can make it really hard. In fact, a great analogy for this is the idea of a guard, because it is far less likely that someone with a big bodyguard is going to be attacked than someone without one. A hunting lion does not look for the biggest wildebeest. He looks for the little one that's sick and straggling behind the rest of the pack, the weak one. This is just all about how not to be the weak one and how to guard your marriage from attack.
What we want to do is set our boundaries so far from the edge of the cliff that even if they are crossed, they are nowhere near falling off. So nowhere near destroying our marriage. It's just we want to put that boundary back so that we can prevent that from happening.
Yeah, so what's your first one, babe?
Oh, because you don't have one yet?
Oh, I have 3.
Okay, no, I have 5. Well, some are like...
I don't know if we got time for that. We'll see what happens.
The first thing I want to talk about is an open phone, but it's kind of also an open in general policy. So open phone, open financial statements, open everything. There needs to be complete openness in the relationship, in communication, in how you're spending your money, in who you're talking to, and I think that that allows for no secrets to be kept. So we have an open phone policy. So that means I can pick up his phone at any time, look through all of his texts, look through all of his emails, all of his calls, because we have nothing to hide from each other. This is so important. This actually makes me feel so secure because I know that no matter who he's talking to, I can be a part of that.
But when was the last time you actually did that?
Like, I don't know, a long time ago.
Right, and I don't know, like, the last time I looked at your phone. It's the same way. Like, if someone texts you, I'll be like, oh, hey, Rachel texted you, and she asked you a question about work or something. But, like, to go looking for stuff, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times in our marriage have I actually, like, looked at your phone?
Yeah.
Like, maybe?
There are actually periods of maybe a week during certain, like the holidays, where we say, hey, don't look at the bank statement.
Yes.
Because we agree on an amount to spend on each other, but we don't want to give away what it is. So it's a very short period of time, and like we agree upon it, and I don't feel like that, you know, inhibits our boundaries. Like,
yeah, we're gonna ruffle some feathers here, and I know people are gonna get mad, but guys, just the way we believe about marriage, what we believe about marriage means that it's 100% oneness and not individuality. And on that same note, I would say my big primary point that goes along with yours is making unity a bigger value than pride. Having individuality and being about me and mine shouldn't really come into play in your marriage. Like, I'm not going to be like,
hey babe, I'm taking your car today because it's our car.
well, that's stupid. It's the car she drives. It's the one she uses to go to work every day. It's the one she's most comfortable in. It's cleaner than mine because it's hers. That would be dumb and selfish. But, like, we don't have my money or her money. If you do that, you're setting yourself up for an opportunity for someone to say, oh, it's mine. And man, I'm not trying to start a fight. Guys, I'm not throwing shade at your marriage. I'm just saying the way we believe marriage ought to be is in unity. And especially with the finances, it's really hard to have an affair when you have only a shared bank account. Like, you're going to spend money at some point. You're going to be paying for a hotel room, or you're going to be buying lunch out, and the lunch bill is going to be bigger, right? If you guys do a budget together, if you look at all of your expenses every month together as just part of your stewardship of what God's given you, it's going to be really hard to hide an affair because you're either going to take money out of the bank or spend money on your card, and it's going to be seen. So make unity a higher value than your pride.
And to go along with that, it even starts with not communicating about what you're buying. For instance, I have known girls that have bought stuff and just, I don't want to tell him about it. And it'll be something that's a piece of jewelry or a clothing item or whatever.
Essential oils, maybe.
No, just something that was for them, but they decided not to communicate it because maybe it was not what they agreed upon in the budget, and the other person doesn't really look at the budget, But it starts with I just don't need to tell them this. It starts with that little secrecy, and that feeling and that, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, that idea, like, it grows. Affairs don't start with a physical. I forget the percentage point, but it starts with somebody telling someone of the opposite sex that is not their spouse something that they didn't tell their own spouse. It's that secrecy that, I'm going to confide in you, but not in my spouse. And it breaks that oneness and that unity that you were just talking about.
Yeah, which leads into another good point, which is to guard your emotional intimacy. All right. Yes, we can talk about physical intimacy. We might. I don't know what she's got on her list, but emotional intimacy is not really made for everybody and their mother, right? Like, you and your spouse, your husband or your wife, need to keep this stuff between the two of you. Yes, it's okay to process maybe with a therapist about how to handle a disagreement you're having or something, but that's the person who's there to objectively guide you to wise choices, and that's what they're doing, right? Going to talk to the boys about the things she did to anger you, or talking to your girlfriends about this thing you did that you felt that he did that you thought was really selfish, that's not helpful. Your friends mean well, but they are far more likely...
They're more likely to just egg you on and keep that division instead of promoting unity in the marriage.
Yeah, because people that think like you offer confirmation bias, right? It's just like whenever you go on Facebook, the only political stuff you see is the political stuff you agree with. Isn't that weird? No, the algorithm does that. Your friends do the same thing. Oh, girl, I know. I can't believe he did that. Or, is that silly?
Or what a guy say, yeah, man, you were so in the right. I don't know. I
don't know if my dudes would say that. But also, like, my friends are a bunch of pastors. Do you remember before we were married, I don't know if it's still a thing, but people would say bros before hoes. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
That's really dumb. Like, that's really stupid. All the young men out there who are not married yet, your wife is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. The people that are so close to you that they're your groomsmen today, you might not talk to them in 5 years. Maybe even 3 years. Like, no, that's a horrible, horrible plan. You commit in marriage to be with somebody for the rest of your life. So do that. But anyway, emotional intimacy, do not allow someone other than your spouse to give you comfort emotionally that only they should be giving you.
You know what's also important that we were talking about the other day is growing with your spouse.
Yeah.
So 50% of people that get divorces are like in their 40s and 50s. And I was like, I wonder why that is. I mean, we're only in our mid-30s. So I was thinking about the timeline and I was like, 40s and 50s, that's about the time when the kids are grown, they're off to college, you're empty nesters, and if you haven't been intentional all the time while you had the kids in the house, I can imagine you look at your spouse and you're like, who are you?
Right.
I don't know you anymore. Well, I guess since we don't really know each other and we don't love each other, then we'll just get divorced. And, I've seen it in some friends' lives, and it's just, I don't want that to be us. So I think it's so important, no matter what stage you're in, to grow with your spouse, to do things together, to have fun together, to keep knowing each other so that when we get to that stage, I'm not like, who are you? I can't believe I'm married to you. I have no idea, like, what you value. I have no idea what you do for fun. I have no idea. You just grow apart unless you're growing together intentionally.
Yeah, you spend a third of your life during your marriage at work. You spend a third of your life during your marriage asleep. The other third of your life, when you've got kids, is spent mostly with your kids. And it turns out that that's a thing you both have in common. So most marriages, it ends up being the case that you spend most of your time when you're awake and not at work on your kids. And that's not a bad thing, right? Like, God designed it that way. But if you do that, then it's like the husband is growing more in his work and his hobbies. And the wife, well, she's not with him, right? Maybe she's at work and she's growing in her work and her hobbies, and they're both like good at the kids, but that's fine. When the kids leave though, what if you got two people who are far different today than they were 20, 30 years ago when they got married, and they don't like each other as much? Oh, I don't remember marrying that person. So if you find a common interest, if you find something you both like doing, we happen to end up doing YouTube together, and we'll find other things because we're so different, we've got to. Then when the kids go away, when they go to school or they move or get married, you're not like looking at a stranger. But that leads to another really good point, which is we all are in arranged marriages. We have all married people who will one day be strangers, right? Now, listen, hear me out. You married someone, let's say you've been married 10 years. The person you married 10 years ago is not the same person you're married to today.
It's true.
This is not the woman I married 8 years ago, but I committed to being married to this woman for my life. She's changed. I've changed. Some of it for the better, but also, like, I tried to do a somersault this morning and my back hurts now. That's different than the guy she married, right? But we didn't commit to just the person we married that day. We committed to that person regardless of the circumstances. So as you grow in your marriage, remind yourself the person you committed to then, even though they're different, you're still committed to that person. Your commitment has to mean more than your feelings, because you're not always going to feel like you love the person. But if you commit to deciding to love the person and remember that daily, it's going to help a lot along the way.
And you know what? Actually, talking about growing, one of the things that I feel like is most important for our marriage, especially because we believe in God and we're Christians, is that I know that a protection we have against infidelity is our relationship with Jesus and our growing relationship with Jesus. So I can trust in God more than I trust in you.
Yeah.
And I can trust that he will speak to you. You know, I can pray that he'll speak to you. And if he's speaking to you, then I know if you have an open heart to him and you're listening to him, it's going to help protect our marriage from an affair, because he's going to correct you on little steps that maybe you're unwise in. And the same for me. You know, if there's anything that happens, like, I can trust that the Holy Spirit will speak to my heart and be like, that's maybe not the wisest thing, you know, in any circumstance, but especially in marriage. And God values marriage so much. He created it to be a picture of his relationship with us. And he loves us so much, and he loves us unconditionally. And that's how we're to love each other. Yeah. So I know that if we're both in a relationship with Jesus and we're growing and we're learning and we're trying to be more like him, and he's helping us to do that, then it's going to affect us in our marriage and help us to not have affairs. Yeah.
Also really helpful, guys and girls, don't hang out with members of the opposite sex alone. Just listen, I'm not trying to be an old man, but like, just consider it logically for a second. If you never are alone in an enclosed space, like a room with no windows, or like in a car away from people, or like in a secluded restaurant, it's literally impossible for you to have an affair. Literally. You're not omnipresent.
A physical one, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like the slow creep of infidelity happens in secrecy. I have not been out to lunch alone with a woman other than my wife since 2010. It's been a decade, and it's okay. I've got female friends. I've got female coworkers that I'm very friendly with. That's okay. We don't go out to lunch alone. I don't get in an enclosed space with no windows alone with them, right? Like, I have meetings with female coworkers, but there's like always windows in the room. For that reason, we don't talk about it, but I always make sure I'm in a place where I'm visible. Because if I'm always visible, it's just not possible.
And no one can accuse you of anything either.
Yeah.
If you're so far above making sure that it's apparent that everyone's always welcome, like you can see, then nothing will happen.
Guys, it's Me Too time. You don't want to be that guy. You don't even want to be accused of being that guy. And if you get accused of being that guy, if you're never in that place, it cannot happen. So don't do it. Ladies, same thing.
And ladies, there's just no reason for you to go out to lunch or be on a phone call or be in a room with another guy that's not your husband, because what good will come of that? Nothing, I can assure you, because there's nothing that you need to talk to that person about that someone else cannot be included. Because if there is, and you feel like it needs to be secret, then that should be a heart check to say, why do I want this a secret? Why do I not want someone else hearing it, or my spouse hearing it, or whatever it is that you need to say? It should be a red flag.
But that doesn't mean you don't have guy friends. You do have male friends.
Yeah, I mean, I have guy friends at work, but whenever I text them, I tell you about it. And like, I'm always including him on what the conversation is. And it's always work related. So there's nothing that we hide from each other.
Yeah, and guys, talk about your wife like a lot, right? Like whenever I have, like for real, like with even the female coworkers
Yeah, you do that.
girls at church, I'm always like, here's my wife. And I'm like showing a picture of my family, right? Because it's like, here's a guardrail. And listen, these are people that I have no intention of having any intimacy of any type with, but it's a guardrail. It's something we put in place that protects the thing that we committed to with God.
The last thing, and what is so important, is physical intimacy with your spouse. This is a guardrail that helps you to stay connected. It's designed by God to create unity. And listen, if you're getting it from each other, you're not going to be seeking it elsewhere.
Yeah.
We are fulfilled in each other. We're committed to each other in that way. And that is one way that we help to affair-proof our marriage.
Yeah, and as a guy, like I'll just say, before marriage, I looked at sex as a way to get physical enjoyment. And like that's still the case, and way more the case now than 8 years ago. Like, grow in that, people. Work on that. But also, it's just so much more. Like, I look forward to it more because it brings unity. Like, God made it to give us spiritual unity. There is a thing that happens there spiritually, I mean.
And emotionally, too.
And emotionally, that is, it's not just a physical unification, it's a spiritual and emotional unification. There's a spiritual thing occurring that binds us together, and it soothes the stresses and the tensions, and you just like each other better, right?
Yeah.
That's intentional. God made it that way. It's a very potent drug. And if you take it in the wrong context, it causes a lot of damage. But within the context of marriage, it's wonderful. And we have to work on that. God made it to help us stay bound together in our marriages. And I'm not blaming men or women for this, but almost every time I meet with someone who's had an affair, who's feeling neglected, there has been a continued growing physical disconnect over the course of years, and it leads to pain every single time. So yes, physical intimacy for spiritual reasons.
Subscribe down below if you aren't already, and until we meet again, don't forget,
Life is better together.